Militarily Speaking, episode 62, Veterans Villages.
This episode, we talk with Dana Spain, president of Veterans Villages.
Welcome to Militarily Speaking, brought to you by Armed Forces Bank. This is Tom McLean and Jodi Vickery. I'm the regional military executive for Armed Forces Bank, and Jodi is the executive vice president, director of consumer banking, and life for her is a highway.
And you are also the birthday boy.
I am the birthday boy.
Yes.
So just remember, episode 60, this is the best episode since we started.
Because it's your birthday episode?
Yeah.
Yes. So for our military minute trivia at the end, I'm going to let listeners guess how old you are. But I won't.
Then they owe me a gift card after that, right?
I guess. Again, welcome to our show. We're excited to have you listening and learning about our guest, Dana Spain, again with Veterans Villages. I do want to take a minute, Dana, and tell our audience a little bit about you. I feel somehow inadequate, but I'm going to
after
do
the first paragraph.
I know
you'll feel inadequate.
I'm going to do my very best. Dana is a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist who gets her drive, passion, and dedication to her community from her parents. Dana was director of training and communications at her family company, Spain's Gifts Dollar Express, until its sale in 2000 to Dollar Tree. In 2001, Dana became the COO and owner of Philadelphia Style magazine, a brand she expanded to Washington, D.C., and into 3 award-winning websites. She sold Style in 2008 to a national publishing company. Dana Spain's development group is committed to revitalizing Philadelphia's neighborhoods. She is the visionary behind the Fairmont at Brewery Town, the transformation of the historic Acme Warehouse Distribution Center into 237,000 square feet of mixed-use space. The Fairmont at Brewery Town features the city's first rooftop dog park and a pool with a skyline view. I think I might like to go there. So concurrent to the Fairmont at Brewery Town, Dana developed and sold 12 triplex modular buildings which feature a mural commissioned by the Mural Arts of Philadelphia, dedicated to the history of brewing in Philadelphia. Dana's last for-profit project is a 74-unit mixed-use building in the Northern Liberty section of Philadelphia. It features state-of-the-art access control and high-speed Wi-Fi, as well as a gym, game room, and wraparound outdoor deck with stunning city views. It's a modular construction and has 2 commissioned murals by MAP, the Mural Arts of Philadelphia. Tom.
Well done.
Yes.
Not the MAT. Yeah.
MAT. Having discovered the benefits of building high-density modular projects, Dana joined volumetric building companies in January of 2019 to help expand the reach of modular and to join forces with a leading visionary in the industry. VBC acquired its first modular factory in Hamlet, North Carolina in 2019. Located in an opportunity zone, Dana created an Oz fund of investors to acquire the factory and fund R&D for new technology and automation. She worked with VBC, now a global modular company, and 29 plus modular factories nationwide on rapid housing solutions to address the affordable and supportive housing crisis in America. In 2006, Dana founded Philadelphia Animal Welfare Society, or PAWS. PAWS operates 3 clinics and adoption facilities, and is Philadelphia's largest no-kill rescue. In addition to serving as president emeritus of PAWS, Dana spent years in the Shark Tank at Temple Fox's School of Business and is the founder and president of Emeritus Haven Women, Philadelphia's first and only shelter for homeless and transitioning female veterans. So 2 things there. The PAWS thing my daughter would love.
I know.
And Shark Tank,
yeah.
Shark Tank, my family is somewhat addicted to. So you'd be very popular in my house, Dana. She raised funds and donations of materials and labor to renovate the shelter from roof to basement to provide a respectful transitional home for female veterans in need. Expanding on Haven's strategic plan to serve veterans from homelessness to housing, in 2021, Dana founded Veterans Villages to build communities for the nation's veterans in need of safe, respectful, resilient, independent housing. Veterans Villages' first project is the Bernard Spain campus, Veterans Village, a 47-unit new construction multifamily building which provides a community atmosphere, outdoor space, supportive programming, and an age-in-place opportunity to veterans. And we're going to hear a whole lot about that today, I think.
Yep.
But to wrap up Dana's bio, her expertise about what it takes to succeed in business has been tapped by more publications than I can count, numerous podcasts. I think she's got us dwarfed in terms of the number of podcasts that we've done combined. She's been honored by numerous awards for all of the good work that you have heard be at least summarized today. We could probably go on for a lot longer. She calls home Scottsdale, Arizona, and she travels around the U.S. by RV seeking adventure with her husband and their rescue cat, Sebastian. I love that. And I love all of it. I think it's cool that you're in an RV traveling around the country, living life to the fullest. But you're obviously somebody that's given a lot back to the for-profit business side of the world, as well as what you're doing now with Veterans Villages. So welcome. It's a huge honor to have you on our show today.
And by the way, it is my birthday, right?
I already told everybody.
I know, but I would have to be like 138 by the time I accomplish what Dana did.
You'd be like Methuselah old in the Bible.
No, but I'd never age.
No, she's done a lot of amazing things, and there's this kind of theme about housing throughout it. But it's very cool that you found a way to give back to the veteran community. So we're sure glad you're here with us. Tell us about Veterans Village, just sort of at a macro level, and then we'll no doubt dive off into a lot of detailed questions.
Veterans Villages, as you touched upon, the genesis of that idea was really from Haven. It was a small but mighty transitional shelter for our female veterans who are coming out of addiction recovery programs, incarceration, in some cases directly out of homelessness. And they would spend 6-9 months, a year max with us in a military structured sorority. And by that, I mean, they had chores, they had self-command, there was a CO, there were floor captains, they had things to do every day. And then we provided enrichment programs, financial literacy programs, yoga, self-defense, peer-to-peer counseling, how to cook and shop on a budget, really everything that they needed to return to productive civilian life. And then at the end of their doing very, very hard work and taking the steps to end the cycle of homelessness, one or several government agencies would put them in absolute squalor, in bad neighborhoods, in drug-addled buildings, in buildings that really should have been condemned way before housing our heroes. And in one particular case, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back was that a lease came across my desk for one of our ladies. She had struggled with homelessness for almost 3 decades. She was finally ready for independent living, and she was being put in an apartment in a bad neighborhood in a terrible building that didn't even come with a full suite of appliances. And I just threw my hands in the air and went to my dad, Bernard Spain, who was alive at the time and an Army veteran from the Korean War era, and just said, you know what, Daddy, we're banging our heads against the wall collectively. The ladies are doing the work. They want to get better. They want to rejoin civilian society. And then the government just cast them aside as a check in the box or a chess piece. And he looked at me and said, you build buildings for a living. Let's build a building and show the government how it's done. And so that's where Veterans Villages came from. If there wasn't going to be inventory that was safe, respectable, and resilient, then we were going to build them and then show other people how to build them.
That's awesome. That sounds just like something a dad would say too.
I know.
You know how to build buildings. Let's go show them.
That's right.
So we've read a lot, heard a lot, talked to some guests in previous episodes about veteran homelessness. So it's not a small problem, and it seems like, albeit it's improved, it still feels like it's not going as fast as we all want it to improve that, especially those who served for our country. With the demand, how do you sort through? Because I have to believe you get a lot of applications for transitional housing or places, they just need help, right? But like the 47 unit in Philly, what's the process you used to determine who gets a residence or who gets temporary housing?
Well, there's a variety of criteria to qualify for Veterans Villages. And although we look at everything on a case-by-case basis, because obviously we're dealing with a population that doesn't have the best credit and may not have the best tenancy record with other apartments or places that they lived. So we really look at that kind of thing on a case-by-case basis. You do have to be honorably discharged or have a neutral discharge to be a resident. And we do a background check for criminal behavior. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. If you had a DUI 30 years ago, it's really not going to count against you. But if you are a sexual predator, you will not be living with us. We do have a mixed perimeter, and our ladies, by and large, have suffered from military sexual trauma. So we're very careful about who we screen to live in the villages to make sure that they're going to be good community members and good neighbors. Most of our referrals come from other veteran service organizations. We have a close partnership with the Veterans Multi-Service Center in Philadelphia, and they sort of track the movement of people coming out of transitional housing in the veteran space. We do get some direct referrals from the VA, and then some is word of mouth. Brothers and sisters in uniform talk to each other and say, hey, I'm living in this great place in a great apartment and you should apply. So we have a waiting list already. We've only been open a year. We have a waiting list for our studio and 1-bedroom apartments. The only apartments currently that are not occupied are our 3-bedroom apartments. We built those for family units and also for veterans who needed assistance or a home health care worker. And we're facing a little bit of red tape that we're working through to have vouchers that are able to be either combined or at a higher rent limit. But of the 47 units, 44 are fully occupied. And the other part I would point out is this is not transitional housing. These are not people coming directly out of homelessness. It's not appropriate for people coming directly out of homelessness, and we can sort of get into the nuances there. But it's independent permanent living. So someone can live with us for a year and then be on their feet again and get a job or have all of their benefits that they've earned, and then move on to buy a house or move into a different apartment. Or they can age in place and be with us until they take their last breath. So this is not transitional. And we have 4 gentlemen who live with us currently from the Vietnam War era, and they're not going anyway. They have told us that this is the first real housing they've had in decades, and they fully intend to take their last breath at the village with their brothers.
Only after a year they're saying that. So you must be pretty proud of that when they tell you that they'll be there forever.
It's humbling. It's very rewarding and it's humbling, but it's amazing the stories. The whole village concept is that putting together a group of people who may not have been in the same theater, who may not have the same lived experience, but they have basically the same thread of a story. Somehow, after their separation from service, they were lost in the system, or they did some things that caused self-harm, and they ended up in a not good situation. So the concept of the village is when you're having that bad day, whether that's PTSD or loneliness or general mental or physical health issues, you have 46 other doors to knock on so that you don't make bad decisions. And you can tell your story or sit in silence in the garden or have a cup of coffee or watch a ball game in the community room and know that somebody understands where you're coming from and what you're battling. And then together we can help them not self-harm and backslide into homelessness.
Dana, what's the square footage for the units you offer, studio or otherwise?
They run from 425 square feet up to 775. The 3 bedrooms might be a little larger than that, but that's most of the apartments. And about 90% of our tenants are on some sort of voucher and or subsidy from Philadelphia Housing Authority, the VA, HUD, and then about 10% are direct pay. You don't have to be on subsidies, but it is affordable housing. So we are affordable with a capital A, both because of where we're located, but also because of we base our rents on the maximum payments of those HUD vouchers.
Okay. Got it. Thank you for clarifying about the independent permanent living. I think that's really important for our audience to know that.
Well, I'm sure that gives the people staying there a sense of, I don't know, peace of mind. They've got a home until they're ready to do something different, and they don't have to think about it or have anxiety about it. I jotted down what a sense of community, and they're really there to take care of their own, honestly. And that's, I think, what they were accustomed to in the military, for sure.
That's exactly right.
And to be able to have that same sense of community or that unit feeling there in the homes that you've created for them, I think is pretty amazing.
It is very important for your audience, for really everybody, because I've spoken to so many people, and shocking but not shocking, even elected officials and people who are supposed to be appropriating funds and making rules and laws for housing don't really understand the difference between housing the homeless and providing permanent housing for people who are no longer homeless. So the real problem is in the way that homelessness is covered. I am an advocate for housing homeless people, as I did with Haven, but there's a lot of nuance there that when you're housing homeless people who are literally coming out of homelessness, it's not much different than when I was with Pause. You're housing people, humans, who have forgotten or don't currently have the ability to live independently because they're in a feral state. They're in a state of not having that security of having a safe place to lay their head every night. They have that anxiety. So when you take somebody off of the street directly and put them in a box, which is the housing first model, which I absolutely do not agree with at all. And everybody says, oh, look, we house the homeless. We put them in a box. Okay, without supportive services and a foundation of that support, those people are going to make bad decisions. They may, in fact, trash the box that they're in because they're not in a mindset where they realize, okay, I'm safe and my anxiety levels can come down and I have all the support that I need. So when we're working with homelessness, it really needs to be in supportive housing. When people have gone through that process and are ready for independent living, that's when the money dries up. That's when the attention is no longer focused on them. And that's the missing piece where there's no inventory or very little inventory in most places for those people to continue to live independently and not backslide into homelessness, creating this vicious cycle. So our whole piece is, why are we not focused on the next logical step? So we provide a safety net when you're homeless and you're coming out of homelessness, and then we rip that safety net away from you and expect you to figure it out on your own. And in our veterans case, and in a lot of vulnerable populations, they just can't figure it out. They need to have that foundational support. So that's where we come in. And that's the drum we're beating and the soapbox that I'm on. Solving homelessness can't be done unless there's inventory for the next step.
That's such an important distinction. I'm glad you've taken the time to really explain that the way that you've done, because I think most people incorrectly, now that I've heard you describe that, talk about it sort of like it's all the same thing, and it's clearly not. So I think that's a valuable clarification.
And in some cases, like she says, it's a Band-Aid. It's not a permanent solution. And
that's right.
If to start all over again is painful.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And it causes more harm to the people that we're trying to help.
True. We're going to talk about you reading her bio again, right?
I'm not going to read the bio again. We're going to have you
start over again and read it. Ready?
No. Clearly, I have a hard time saying the word Philadelphia is what I learned.
It rhymes with Topeka.
It rhymes with Topeka, apparently, where I live. But all kidding aside, Dana, when I look at everything that you've done and sort of all of the building blocks that happened, whether you knew they were happening at the time or not, to get you to what you're doing today to serve this community, is there a point in time along the way where you thought, this is it? I'm here, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and it all seemed to click?
It's the start of this, and I've been working with active military families and veterans at this point for decades in some capacity. And it clicked to me after college, and there were a lot of ROTC at Northwestern where I attended, that, as Bugs Bunny used to say, I was 4F, right? So I had bad joints and I had knee problems and eventually hip problems, and I was not fit for service. So I didn't have the honor and the privilege of wearing the uniform, but believed so strongly that I had to serve. And so my service has been to those who have served our country and served bravely. And it is an absolute national disgrace, the way that we discard those who fight for our freedom every single day, who give and sacrifice so that we may live free. So my service is to them. And it clicked quite some time ago. But I have to tell you that along the way, there have certainly been obstacles where I just wanted to scream and pull my hair out because it was, screaming into a hurricane, when we really, as a country, it should not be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be the left or the right side of the aisle. These are people of all race, color, and creed who put their lives on the line for us. And they should not be discarded after service. And unfortunately, that's sort of what happens, especially if they're facing mental and physical health issues. And it's just not right. So while there's thousands of veteran service organizations, we're really doing the work that the government should be doing. And if you look at the government, I mean, look at what we spend crazy money on, not only in our own country, but all around the world with all kinds of weird and bizarro programs. And yet nobody can find funding to house our heroes. And I just found, and my father was in complete agreement that his words, veterans got a raw deal. And it's up to us as Americans to fix that problem.
Yeah, certainly speaks to national priorities.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's hitting a lot of good sound bites too for the audience to be able to take these things.
You're right on so many fronts. Yeah.
So let's go back to Northwestern, okay?
Sure.
My mom went there, and I grew up in Evanston, Illinois for a few years.
Oh, okay.
Love it there. My brother still lives in the Palatine, Arlington Heights area. He covers local sports, local high school sports, all sports, and writes stories. He's still old school, right? He writes stories, and they actually put them in a newspaper.
No, I'm going to say with the typewriter.
No, he does use a typewriter, and he faxes his articles now. But yeah, Northwestern, I certainly enjoyed downtown Evanston, going to the Five and Dime, Ben Franklin, when they used to have it, and went to a lot of Wildcat games. So enjoyed that time. And my mom had a great education there, and it's a great school.
I really enjoyed it. And the winters were cold, I can tell you that.
They were.
But it is a beautiful campus, and Evanston was great for off-campus living during my senior year. And I spent a year abroad, and I wrote my thesis on a typewriter because that's how old I am. So
I took typing class on a typewriter.
What were your words per minute? Did you ever get?
I don't remember. She used to put on an actual record with record music, and we had to type and beat with this circus music. No. See, these are my memories. These are my formative years.
Dana, I'm 92 words a minute.
Wow.
But I was 9 back then when I got tested for that. So maybe I've slowed down to 91. But so back to Philly too. My wife and her family live in Philly, but was there a pick for the state in the city, or did it come up just because of the availability and the story that you told about, we got to fix some things? And if it's one city at a time, that's great. But Philly seemed to be your landing spot, right?
Oh, that is, I born and raised in Philadelphia, and other than Northwestern, living in Paris and having my first job out of college in New York, I have been Philadelphia until 2 years ago. So it's where my business was based. It's where my development was based, where all my charities are based, where my family is based. And for our first village, it made sense because it really was an offshoot of Haven. I wanted to build a building for my ladies who otherwise were being put in squalor. So
right.
It's all Philly all the time until 2 years ago when my husband and I and our cats moved to Scottsdale, Arizona. So it just made sense to have eyes on the prize and put it in our backyard. And really, it was a template. It was, let's do this and learn from it, and then put a blueprint, figuratively and literally, together for other VSOs or government agencies or NGOs to be able to just hand someone the plan. And that plan includes how to build a pro forma, how to build a cap stack, how to get entitlements for land. Are there utilities? Is there a retail corridor? Is there access to public transportation to take our tenants to the VA medical campus? Is there a nearby grocery store? there's an awful lot to do with building a building that most people don't take into consideration. And so a lot of people fail at that. I don't want people to fail. If you have the zeal and the volition to build a veterans village, I'm going to give you just add water, and here it is. So that was why we did it in our backyard, to make sure that we did it correctly. We learned from our mistakes, and we could put a template together for other people to follow.
So now that this is out, again, it's only been a year. You probably have to let it marinate. But if you have a waiting list, there's probably a demand, I would say. And you may be looking at other cities. You may be looking, I don't know if you're landlocked in your 47 unit today where you can't expand that one, but can you look, or will you look at other geographies to take the blueprint and prop it up somewhere else?
We have been speaking to groups and elected officials across the country, quite literally from coast to coast. I think our best inroads so far are an additional village in more rural Pennsylvania, closer to where the Fort Indiantown Gap and the National Guard fort is out there. We've been talking to elected officials and other nonprofits in the state of New Jersey, and the same in the state of Florida. So we have a lot of tentacles out right now looking for land, doing a need assessment, working with officials and other VSOs on all of the things that I just mentioned about pieces of land and putting together a pro forma and a budget, a cap stack, but also making sure that the land is properly served by a retail corridor and transportation. But there's a lot. I mean, I might have 10, 12 calls a week with various players on, and I have a feeling that once it hits, it's going to hit the ground running. There's a lot of background happening. But once we say, okay, we're going to build in Ocala, Florida, for example, all of a sudden there's going to be 10 in the pipeline. That's sort of how it works in real estate development.
Yeah, being between Gainesville and Tampa in the Ocala area is certainly a demand. I mean, it's a good central part of the state too. So I'm sure the demand would be great for that area.
Yeah.
Plus my parents live there.
Plus my family lives in Tampa. So
my family's near Ocala.
She and I will both volunteer whatever we can do to help you.
Yes, I volunteer my parents too.
Find us some land where the neighbors are okay with having veterans live next door. You'd be surprised at the NIMBYs in the real estate development circle, the NIMBYs being not in my backyard. Even for veterans housing, people are a little wacky when it comes to affordable housing. The difference of many, but the difference with veterans villages is I built it like I build my for-profit housing. So the curb appeal is beautiful. It's a brick facade in keeping with the aesthetic of old Philadelphia. Yeah. It has a mural on the side because when I was part of mural arts program as a board member, I promised the executive director that any building that I built would have public art. And she has kept me to that promise with a lot of green space. So it's not affordable housing made with spit and bubble gum or lipstick on a pig. It is brand new construction, and it's a building that anybody would want in their neighborhood.
Hey everyone, we've got something special for our military listeners today.
Absolutely. If you're in the market for a new home, you've got to check out Armed Forces Bank's VA loans. They're designed specifically for you with competitive rates, no PMI, and no down payment required. And as an approved VA lender with VA certified underwriters, all decisioning is done in-house, which creates a more streamlined experience for veterans.
At Armed Forces Bank, about 75% of our team is affiliated with the military, so we know what it's like to serve. We've been supporting military families for over 100 years, so we've got your back every step of the way.
Whether you're active duty, a veteran, or a reservist, we are here to make your home buying process smooth and stress-free. And with our mortgage service guarantee, we'll close your loan on time or pay you $1,000.
So if you're ready to move into your dream home, head over to afbank.com or visit a branch near you. Armed Forces Bank, serving those who serve.
Equal housing lender, member FDIC, subject to credit approval. VA funding fee may apply. VA loan qualification guidelines apply. Third-party closing costs apply. Owner-occupied property only.
Very good. I want to kind of switch a little bit to, I don't even know the right right label for it, but I know you mentioned it a little bit ago that sometimes things like politics and right wing, left, all that gets in the way sometimes of doing the right thing. Do you have data that you could share with our audience that would put this issue that you're working hard to help solve in some sort of perspective or context? And then knowing that it's a sizable issue, even without having data in front of us immediately, how are you tapped into what's going on in DC? Are there things that are at play there that would help, you think, near term, medium term, long term, permanently, if folks would get their collective act together and take action?
I'll start with the last part of the question first. And I think that, as I referenced before, the people in DC either don't have a clue or don't care. I would like to believe that they don't have a clue about the magnitude of the problem that we're facing. But there doesn't seem to be a groundswell of support, because when we ask, and we're working with national partners much bigger than us, and say, where is their funding? Where's their grant? Where's their tax credits where we can garner the support to build these villages? And the answer is, oh, we don't have any funding for that. We have $6 million of funding to send to Egypt for them to promote tourism. But for that same $6 million, I can build a village and nobody cares. So no, there isn't really a groundswell in DC. Not to say that I and my VSO partners are not pounding on doors and talking to anybody who will talk to me. I often say, when people get on a call with me and they say, oh, well, thanks so much for reaching out, I'll talk to somebody in an elevator. I'll talk to strangers on the street. I'll dance with a ballroom chair in Target. Like, I will, if you give me a soapbox, I'm getting on it and I'm going to beat my drum. To put some numbers out there. So when we're talking about homeless, truly homeless, meaning unhoused, and strangely enough, and this is just a brief aside, talked about tangents. If you are sleeping in your car, you are not considered homeless. So let that sink in for a moment when I tell you the numbers of homeless veterans.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know who said that, but that doesn't make sense to me. All right, keep going.
Yes. So snapshot in time from the VA, at any given time, where they're predicting an uptick of about 7% in the current fiscal to July of 2025. They're predicting a 7% increase in veterans homelessness. Right now, there's about 38,800 men and women who are homeless, not couch surfing, not sleeping in their car, quite literally on a street, on a sidewalk, under an overpass. At any given night in America, there are 38,800 veterans on our streets. Of housing insecurity, and that means that veterans are someplace, but they may have to move. And why would they have to move? Well, their benefits don't keep up with the increase in rents, or property taxes have gone up and landlords are no longer offering affordable housing because it doesn't cover the property taxes, or people who are aging in place aren't in an accessible apartment for them to age in place. Those people are about 1,200,000 veterans. That's not including all of the other vulnerable populations: seniors, single female head of household, kids aging out of foster care. This is just our veteran population. 1.2 million at any given time could lose their housing tomorrow. How about that? How about that for figures?
That's perspective, for sure.
You can fact check me on this too. I see if these homeless veteran demographics make sense. That 13% of the homeless adult population are veterans. 20% of the male homeless population are veterans. 51% of homeless veterans have disabilities. 50% have serious mental illness. 70% have substance abuse. And then this was kind of odd, Dana. 51% are white males compared to 38% of non-veterans. And then 50% are aged 51 or older compared to only 19% non-veterans. So it just feels like it goes on and on and on and on, and finding the root or finding the tourniquet along the way, it's bigger. And I'm glad you're being the spokesperson and the ambassador on any soapbox you can, because the stats don't lie. Certainly we can look at other stats too, but it's just amazing how Somehow it spiraled, you know?
Yeah, I'm going to add some gravity, even more so. 10% of our homeless and housing insecure veterans are females. Those females are 4 times more likely to have suicidal ideation than their civilian counterparts. 1 in 4 of our homeless or housing insecure female veterans self-report military sexual trauma. So, and that number is rising. And the VA, I think, being the bureaucracy that it is, they want to do the best that they can. And the VA is mostly run by veterans and families of veterans. So they want what's best for the veterans. But after females started to be put in combat in male perimeters, we started to see an awful lot of problems, because that's what happens when you mix genders out in the middle of nowhere with very little to do and a lot of stress and anxiety. And so the VA is catching up, but they really don't have the resources that are female centric. And for all veterans to get the full disabilities and or benefits that they've earned is a morass of red tape. And so there's VSOs that pop up all the time, and thank God for them, that help veterans navigate the waters just to get their benefits. A lot of veterans never get their full benefits because they just don't know where to look or who to call. Well, that was a downer. I'm sorry. Can we talk about something better?
Hey, it's my birthday
Tom's
today.
Birthday.
Happy birthday.
Now we got the song.
She did it.
Yes.
The Marilyn Monroe. All right. So I'm not even going to ask this next question. The question is, what does the day in the life of Dana Spain look like? And well, I don't think we have time.
I think I'd be exhausted by the answer.
Honestly, now as I'm focusing on veterans villages and hoping very hard to join my husband in retirement, it is not quite as bizarre and hectic as it used to be. Mostly, we're very outdoorsy. So here, when we're in the RV, we're kayaking or bicycling or hiking. Back in Scottsdale, I could be at an archery range, on a horse, at a shooting range, or on a hike or at yoga. And then I like to front load as much meeting space as I can. So I start very early in the morning and make as many calls and get on as many podcasts and do as many interviews as people will have me, so that I'm constantly getting the word out about veterans villages. I've done the 18-hour days, 7 days a week when I was working for my family business and when I was building my own businesses. And I don't want to do that anymore.
Now she's down to 17 hours a day. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
She does a lot of cool things to balance it out, it sounds like.
I know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
A lot of activities.
Yes.
Dana, we haven't even mentioned your website, but Jodi, do you want to mention their website?
So when we talk about veteransvillages.org, if somebody was going to go to that site today, where would you point them? What's there for them to learn about? Are there ways that they can get involved and help with what you're doing?
Besides finding land,
finding land in Ocala near my parents.
Right.
Exactly. We are a donor-funded organization. We do not take any city, state, nor federal funding. We built a $6 million building without even tax credits. We did it all through private financing, a community bank with our construction loan, and the support of Jack, Jill, and Sally Q American, not only in Philadelphia, but across the nation, with donations as small as $5 and as big as $1 million. That's the lifeblood. So in addition to that, and I should mention, because we talked briefly about the Housing First model, is that when veterans are coming to us out of transitional housing, they very rarely have furniture or sheets or towels or a coffee maker. I don't know about you, but a house is not a home to me without coffee. So
yes, we are kindred spirits.
Speaking to the coffee.
Coffee is my
expert.
love language.
Yeah.
There you have it. Nespresso is my love language. So we have funds that look, there's a lot of controversy and a lot of scandal and a lot of bad actors in the charitable field and in the veteran field, who shall remain nameless. But people have become reticent to say, well, I'll donate $50 and then not know where it's going. We hear you. We're with you. So 92 cents of every single dollar that's donated goes directly to our veterans and their programs. We have a fund that's specific to everything that a veteran needs to set up a house: sheets, towels, pots, pans, coffee maker, all of it. So if somebody would prefer and say, well, you know what, I think that every veteran should have a coffee maker or a brand new fuzzy blanket or a robe and slippers, they can donate that. We have an Amazon wish list that updates all the time that you can access from our website. If you're inclined to get involved and build a village or want more information on how to build a village in your community, please reach out. The email on the website comes directly to me. I answer every single one of them myself. There's no team here. We have no paid employees. We're all volunteers. But if somebody reaches out to me, I will make sure that they have information. They can look at the Bernard Spain campus. They can hear stories from our veterans themselves. And yeah, I mean, it's not a deep or fancy website, but they can gain information and they can certainly join our cause.
Excellent. And then again, that's veteransvillages.org. Can't say that enough.
Yes.
You've also got we got just a couple more questions for you, Dana. You've been an amazing guest, so thank you for all this great information. The partnerships you have out there, as we visit your website, there's some partners named out there, right? So is there anything that qualifies them as a partners? Can other organizations send you an email and tell you they're interested in becoming a partner?
Absolutely.
And what does it mean?
So let me just say that having been in a variety of charitable endeavors, some people play well with others in the sandbox and some do not. We, and by and large in the veteran community, although we've hit some roadblocks, but I would say the majority of VSOs play very well together because we are so mission driven and mission focused. So we welcome all sorts. It could be a faith group of some sort. We have a church, for example, in the Philadelphia area, and they've become a partner in being a food bank for our tenants. So it could be as simple as that. Our national partners like Soldier On and Homes for Veterans, they bring niche skills to a village that we don't. We know how to build buildings and we build them really well and cost effectively and time efficiently. Soldier On has so many supportive programs and transportation and all kinds of things that they can bring to our tenants that we need from a third party, and they're experts at it. So they've become a partner and they're introducing their supportive services into our village and any future villages. Homes for Veterans, they specialize in accessibility and age in place. So as people do age in place in the villages and for future villages to be built with aging in place and accessibility in mind, they play a key part in that. We also have partners like Saint-Gobain Certitude, which is the world's largest material manufacturer. And they were a partner in as far as not only donating money to us, but supplying us with all of our facade material for the Bernard Spain campus. And they will do so in the future, saving the project about $150,000. We have partners like the Signet Group who come in with volunteers and they do painting and landscaping. So it's open-ended in terms of who the partners can be. We just ask that you love our veterans and that you see them as what they are, heroes that we need to help and support.
I like that. That's the baseline qualification.
I know.
That's right.
Yep. And they can reach out to you again through your website, veteransvillages.org, and the email will go straight to you if they've got an interest. I want to kind of close out our conversation with maybe a personal side of this. I'm sure you have thousands probably, but is there a story that you can share with our audience that would relay the impact of what you're doing in a personal way, in a real life way? Of course, names left off. And
Beside
all that,
the four people that are permanently going to stay there.
I know yeah.
Stories are probably a lot of them, but yeah, is there one that
story
stands out?
that you're like, this is my why. This is I'm doing the right thing here.
I'm going to give you two because the why really came from Haven. I went to check on the gals one day and collect mail and just make sure they had all the supplies that they needed. And there was a young woman standing outside. She was probably in her mid-20s maximum. So there was a young woman standing on the front stoop, and she looked very, very nervous. And when you're working with a homeless population, the jitters are not something you want to see. You know what I'm saying? So I stopped to talk to her, and she looked very, very nervous, but she was dressed and had makeup on and was kind of fidgeting with her hands. And I stopped to talk to her, introduced myself, and she said, I have a lunch with my kids and I haven't seen them in 3 years because I was an addict and I didn't have stable housing and I didn't have a way forward, and they took my kids from me. And today I get to have lunch with them for the first time in 3 years, and I'm really nervous.
That's awesome.
And we gave each other a big hug. And I said, you're going to do great, Mom, and have a wonderful time. And then she said, basically, who are you? And I said, I'm the president of Haven, and I founded this house. And she just, despite her makeup being done, she just burst into tears and said, this moment would not have come without you.
Yeah. That's a story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes it all worth it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was in tears and she was in tears and there were hugs involved. And honestly, remembering her now, when you think of a homeless veteran, you're thinking of a guy of a certain age on the street corner with some cardboard, right? You're not thinking of a young mom.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it really drove home the importance of what we were doing. Then fast forward to veterans villages several years later, there is a young woman in her early 30s, survivor of military sexual trauma, had suicidal ideations for a number of years, needed to get her mental health squared away, and lost her child into the system. And she's been living with us. She was one of our first residents, and she's been living with us for a better part of a year. And now that she's stable, she has partial custody of her 10-year-old daughter. And we have provided furniture for her apartment so that her daughter can come and stay with her. And she is filing for full custody. So
That's awesome.
Comes full circle from that young mom on the step of Haven, that going back to the genesis of why Veterans Village was important and necessary in the first place, it's to provide that stable, independent living for people to put their lives back together, not make bad decisions, and be reunited with their families.
Such a healing journey, it sounds like, that you're helping facilitate in a very humble way.
It's very humbling.
Dana told us she's done a podcast before. I didn't believe her at first. And then
okay, we believe
here she
you.
comes. Yeah. She has arrived when it comes to the podcast. I do have to quiz you, though, on one thing. Ready?
Oh, no.
Okay, here we go.
To prove that you're from Philly, what's another word for H2O?
Water.
Right. Okay, you're from Philly.
Spelled WOODER.
That's right.
It's awesome.
Oh, okay. I thought my wife was lying to me the whole time, but she says Witter. Yep.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, audience.
Exactly.
We have one more thing to do with you.
You've been very gracious. If you could hang with us one more quick minute, we always like to close our podcast with something a little lighthearted. Okay. We call it the Military Minute. It is our most favorite game to play. We have a trivia question
Speak
every
for yourself,
episode.
by the way,
I know.
Jodi.
I need to get a life. I need to do some of the cool things that she does. But last episode, our guest was affiliated with the American Red Cross. So our question last time was, who was the founder of the American Red Cross and in what year did that take place?
Dana?
You don't have to know this, but if you did, it would be like pretty impressive.
No, that was sideways.
We stumped you. Yeah.
So that one you could answer since it was on the prior episode, but the right answer was Clara Barton in 1881. So if you are in our audience and you answered that correctly when that podcast dropped, watch for us to pick your name. Well, you can watch and see if we pick your name. to win $50 for yourself and $50 for a charity of your choice,
i.e. Veterans Villages.
i.e. veteransvillages.com. And then this week's Military Minute, you can't answer this one even if you know it. So
we should ask her if she actually knows it.
Well, we will. Like, raise your hand if you know it, but don't answer.
Yeah.
This week's Military Minute takes us to a question about Philadelphia. What was the original name for Philadelphia?
Don't say it, Dana. Oh, act like you know it, though.
Just raise your hand because we'll believe you because you seem to know so much other stuff.
Yeah, I know what it is.
Okay, so audience, if you know the original name for Philadelphia, when this podcast drops, put your best lucky guess in there or well-informed by Google guess, and then watch for us to also select you to win $50 for yourself and $50 to a charity of your choice.
She's texting her husband right now saying, do you know?
Dear Google, what was the original name?
No, don't say it. We're going to move on now. I'm going to say thank you, Dana, before she spills the beans, right? If you enjoyed today's episode like Dana did, go out to afbank.com and subscribe to the show. Also, make sure to rate us, leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform. And Dana, we are on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And you have made history today because you're the only episode that we're going to have that's number 62.
And probably the only one on Tom's birthday.
And the one that did just a superb job. We were proud to have you here. You're a great American, great patriot, and doing fantastic work for us. So I appreciate you, Dana.
We appreciate you and being able to reach your audience.
Pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Copyright Armed Forces Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. All non-Armed Forces Bank owned apps, websites, company names, and product names are trademarks or registered trademarks of their respective owners. Their mention does not imply any affiliation with or endorsement by Armed Forces Bank of them or their products and services. They are merely used as examples of the many available apps, companies, and websites that offer similar services. Before using any app or website, you should carefully review the terms of use, data collection, and privacy policy. Apps may have an initial cost or in-application purchase features. This information is general in nature and is not intended to be legal, tax, or financial advice. Although Armed Forces Bank believes this information to be accurate, it cannot ensure that it could change. Statements or opinions of individuals referenced herein are their own, not Armed Forces Bank. Consult an appropriate professional concerning your specific situation and respective governing bodies for applicable laws, such as irs.gov for current tax law. Armed Forces Bank, the Armed Forces Bank logo, and the Militarily Speaking logo are registered trademarks of Armed Forces Bank.